Number one. I haven't posted in a long time, but I had an experience with a skinwalker, and I thought about sharing it with you all. I worked late last Friday night, and I stayed until 1:30 in the morning. It was eerie. The plant usually has about a dozen people around the daylight hours, and that evening there were only three of us at the plant. I was out in the plant making repairs when I noticed something just outside the fence. I couldn't make out the distinct shape, but it was dark and it moved quickly. I wasn't able to listen out for it because it was loud. I figured that it might have been a dog, coyote, bobcat, maybe even a cougar. Stray animals are no strangers to the plant. Just the other day, I seen two dogs and a cat traveling together in the plant, and that was strange. I continued to work, and when I went back to the truck to get tools, I saw whatever it was outside the fence start across the roadway and into the process pipeline area. It was dark and moved on all four, a blurry, dark mass that moved quickly. It was about 3 feet tall while it moved on all four. My best description is it looked like a cougar. Its movement was fluid, much like how a cat stalks its prey. I was pretty uneasy about seeing it move into the plant, and I radioed operations about something in the plant. They teased me about it, and they sent out an auxiliary operator to investigate what went into the plant. The operator walked around the plant with his flashlight and a two-way radio. The lights in the plant had an orange tint and very poor illumination, which made it seem like the orange light only made more shadows than light. I picked up the pace and hurried my repairs, just to get back to the office and away from whatever was out there. It was about 2:15 in the morning, and I was wrapping up my repairs and headed back to the office. I went inside and met with the operators, and they felt confident that the plant was going to stay running. They also asked about what I had seen, and I told them what I saw. They joked and teased me again. It wasn't my first rodeo. I've seen a skinwalker before, and what I seen that night wasn't close to what I've seen in the past, so I really didn't pay much attention to what was out there. I think what worried me the most was it could have been a cougar. They've been seen in the area recently, and I didn't want to be its next meal. I gathered my personal stuff and went back to the truck, fiddled with the phone, and started the ignition. The truck's lights automatically come on, and I'd seen something tall and black. It stood about 7 feet tall, and it dropped on all four and ran back into the plant. When it ran off, it looked like a cougar. Its movements were fluid and effortless. When it stood upright, it looked like a tall, thin person, just standing close to one of the process pipeline towers. I didn't want to be there any longer than I had to, so I took off without telling the operators. I figured I'd give them a call when I was already on the road leaving the plant. Just before leaving the plant, there was one required stop, the guard shack. We were required to stop and sign in and out of the plant. I didn't want to stop. I thought that whatever was out there might catch up to me and do who knows what. I had to stop anyways. There's an automatic gate and it was closed. I got out and signed the stupid logbook and ran back into the safety of my truck. I had the feeling that it might have gotten into the truck bed, so I turned on the rear bed lights. I had a huge sense of relief when I didn't see anything there. I left the plant and headed home, which took me through the Navajo reservation on a lonely stretch of dirt roads. My senses were on full alert. I was expecting that whatever was stalking me might be following me. I just had that feeling. I finally made it home, but the strange thing was that I don't remember seeing any cars along the road, even in my own neighborhood. It was eerily quiet. Usually I would have seen a few cars driving around town, but this time it was different. When I arrived at my driveway, I opened the door and I did a walk around the truck, again looking for what was ever out there. That's when I smelled it. It was a very distinct, pungent smell. It smelled like rotten flesh and wet dog. The smell was everywhere. I covered my nose and looked around. I didn't look too hard because I wanted to hurry up and get inside. Once inside, I went over to my gun safe and grabbed my pistol and a flashlight. I went back outside and walked towards my truck and shined the light around the neighborhood, but I didn't see anything. I was thinking that if the skinwalker followed me, the neighborhood dogs would be barking, but it was still quiet, and I shined the light on my roof and the next door neighbor's roof, and that's when I saw it again. It was hiding behind the rooftop air conditioning. It ducked away when I shined the light at it. I was surprised and scared at the same time. I took off for the front door and locked it behind me. I turned on the security cameras and pulled up the feed so I could see where it was at. My cameras didn't capture it, but I did hear the bone whistle. For those of you who don't know about the bone whistle, they are made from human finger bones, hollowed out and used to make whistles. After the whistle, the neighborhood dogs started barking. I didn't hear it anymore, needless to say. I didn't get any sleep that morning. Once it was daylight, I walked around the house looking for clues as to what was walking around the neighborhood. I didn't find any tracks or anything out of the ordinary. I looked for any disturbances in the ground, since skinwalkers sometimes bury witching bundles at their victims' homes. Now it's been almost a week and I haven't noticed anything unusual, and I'm unsettled that it knows where I live. I guess time's gonna tell what happens next. Number 2. I know I literally just joined, but I'm utterly terrified at this very moment. I'm not home alone, but my brother is dead asleep and nothing can wake him up, not even loud music. I will first explain what happened to me last night, and then I will begin with what's happening right now. I'm only 15, and I am Australian and I fear I have a skinwalker stalking or taunting me. Now before I start, I know skinwalkers are supposed to only be in America, but I do not believe they are only there. I really do believe there's one here. Please listen to this and help me. Last night I went to bed normally around 8 o'clock, scared and terrified for absolutely no reason. Literally no reason. But I still managed to somehow go to sleep. I woke up about 5 times. Why, I don't know. The first time I woke up, it was after a happy dream. In a cold sweat, absolutely terrified. Scared and paralyzed. I fell asleep from fear, I'm pretty sure. The second time, I don't really remember. I just remember waking up, still feeling absolutely terrified in a sweat. The third time, I was terrified still. I wanted to prove myself it was nothing, and I just was being an idiot. I sat up, still scared. It smelled like I had just run a marathon. I didn't care, I just knew in my mind I stunk. Anyway, I got up looking for my dog Choppy. He's an English Mastiff. He must have sensed I was terrified or something, because I couldn't find him where he usually was on the couch. He was there on my floor, laying down, staring at my door, completely focused on something. This scared me even more, and just went straight back to bed. Laying there scared, I turned on my phone. 3 in the morning. I turned it off and rolled on my side and looked out my door until I fell asleep. The last 2 times, I remember just doing the same thing, waking and sitting up with absolute dread and terror, looking and making sure my dog was still there. I made him sleep on the bed with me the last time that I woke up. I told my mom, and she just shrugged the whole thing off as me being restless. She is a very skeptical person. I have never had sleeping problems. Never in my life have I woken up with fear, terror, or even sweated from the worst nightmare. I will now explain what's happening right now. I live in Queensland of Australia. Not giving my exact location. My parents aren't home because my mom had to pick up my dad from the airport tonight. He works in another part of the country and gets to fly home every month. I'm basically home alone. I don't even want to call out for my brother to see if I can wake him up. So I'm sitting here in silence, only listening to the taps of my finger on the keyboard, trying to calm myself. And I'm scared that if I even leave my seat to do anything, it'll come through my back door after me, so I'm staying and typing the whole story, or whatever you may call it. My parents are coming home around midnight, 2 a.m., and it's only 8, and I feel like I'm about to start crying. My late evening consisted of cleaning. I like cleaning anyway. I was finishing up with the dishes when I heard the dogs whimpering. It did not sound like one of my dogs, but I checked anyways. Maybe it was Chopper or one of the three outside in the pen. So I went to make sure they were okay. Choppy was sleeping and the other three were asleep as well. I went outside to make sure there wasn't a dog or anything. There was not. It was really odd, but I thought nothing of it and just tried to play it out like it was dreaming or something. I did not think it was them. I could and still feel eyes on me. I can feel the dread, terror, and everything in me, but I'm trying to show that I'm calm and relaxed. I don't know if it's working. Something is out there. I can hear it walking, going through our trash cans. I heard it burp. It didn't sound like anything I've ever heard before. We don't have dingoes in this area or any other wild or stray dogs. It keeps growling or trying to talk. Whatever it's doing, I'm not complying with it. I'm going to stay planted in my seat. Plus, I don't think, with how I'm trembling, I couldn't even walk towards it. Yes, I'm scared, trembling, shaking, glancing at my glass sliding door and my kitchen window like every 5 seconds, but I don't want to move.
I'm literally shaking, trying not to, just trying to act calm. I feel like its eyes are on me. No, I can actually feel its eyes on me, piercing my soul, and now I can hear something going through the trash. I have the back door open. I had it open so Choppy could enter and leave freely. He looks terrified. He went out there and he was barking and growling at whatever it was. So were the other three dogs. He came in and the other dogs just went dead silent. He's sitting on the couch, just looking out the kitchen window. We both give each other glances, even if he is just a dog. It's like in this conversation we can understand. We're both looking at each other as if to say, please do something, or, holy shit, what the hell was that? I'm going to keep updating in the comments, but before I do, I'm just going to say, whatever it is, it stinks like rotten eggs, dead, rotting animal, meat, rotten milk, or yogurt all at the same time into a mix. It's horrible. There was no rotten animals here before. I'm sorry if it's scrambled and out of place. I'm just so scared right now.
Number 3. Before I start, I should mention that I'm half white, half Mexican male, and the story happened to me when I was 17. My family went to California for a summer vacation and to see the family we have out there. That year, we decided to go camping in a certain park in Northern California for a few days, and being a Phoenix native, I was in much need of a break from the 120-degree heat. All was good for the first few days until the second to last night. A group of 5 of us are sitting around a campfire at 1 in the morning when we notice the forest goes dead silent around us. As we all look around at each other questioningly, we hear the pain blood curdling scream of a woman yelling, "No, no, no," ringing from the trees to the left of our camp. Not knowing what was wrong or what was going on, we kept our ears open and stayed on guard. A few moments later, we heard the same noise again, but somehow different, more inhuman, like the voice being played off a speaker. We instantly recognized that it was the voice of a woman from before. Horrified, we quietly all went to our tents to hide. Eventually, we fell into an uneasy sleep. I jolted awake at 3 in the morning, desperately needing to pee. Thankfully, we were across from the outhouse, so after a quick sprint over to the outhouse and relieving myself, I hear what sounded like scratching on the tin metal roof. I immediately froze, remembering the inhuman howl from earlier that night, hoping they weren't related. Armed with only my phone, I watched the next half an hour tick down, either waiting for the sun to rise or for the sound of scraping to stop. Then suddenly the light in the bathroom cut out. The timer for the lights had gone out, leaving me in darkness. With the faintest bit of light threatening to peek its head over the horizon, I decided to make my break back to my tent. I made it across the dirt road to the camp when I heard it. The same screaming of "no." It was a woman's shriek, but not loud. It had the same intensity and inhuman artificialness, but barely a whisper. Foolishly I turned around and perched on the metal roof. It was a 7-foot, pale gray creature with 3-inch claws on all fours, and deep sunken eyes staring at me a mere 25 feet away. This thing I now recognized as a skinwalker. Its flesh was tightly stretched across its bones. It was completely hairless and lacked any form of genitalia. I was frozen solid as we looked at each other until it looked to its right and saw the light creeping up. It stared at me and let out the same agonizing cry that had haunted me all night, as it raised its left front and rear legs to the lowest hanging branch, followed shortly by the right. It sent one last soul-stabbing stare before it vanished into the early morning. As I lay back into my tent, silently sobbing, I hear the faint echo of the skinwalker's cry. Needless to say, I didn't sleep at all that night, and refused to set foot in those woods again. As we left the campsite that day, we saw a homeless-looking woman standing at the side of the road going down the mountain. I didn't make eye contact, but I knew she was staring at me. Once we passed, I casually looked over my shoulder to see if she was there, but she wasn't. But there was an owl who flew close to the ground where she was just standing into the thick woods across the dirt road. Number 4. One night while driving around a rural Illinois area on some random back road, my friend and I were just talking about random teenage things and just having a good time. We started a conversation about scary things we've seen or just different stories we've heard from other people. I should say they were both firm believers of skinwalkers and creatures like that. I started to feel a little uneasy as I started to drive into a part of the road that both sides of the roads have tall trees, and it just creates a really uneasy vibe at night. I'm looking up ahead, and my headlights shine on something that had these huge eyes that I couldn't even think of an animal with eyes that large. Then I asked my friend, "Do deers have big eyes?" And they answered, "Not really." In that moment, I started to feel a pit in my stomach that I should just turn around. I get close to the creature, and that's when it started to crawl across in a way where I don't even want to call it crawling. I felt so scared thinking about all the stories I've heard about the skinwalkers. This thing looks half human and half something else. Its front legs, or arms, were so long that it made me think it was inhuman. Its back legs moved in such a way that made me want to throw up. The thing looked at me, and then when I came to my senses and threw the car into reverse and turned around and got out of the area as fast as I could. I've never seen in my life something that looked like this. One of those scary stories to tell in the dark creatures. My friend didn't say a word the whole time that I was taking him home. We just really want to know if it was a skinwalker or something else.